Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I bring you another emotional story about the love between single mother Ly Hoai Ca and police officer Hùng. After a long time working at his new post, Hùng has always given his best to complete every task. During the days away from home, far from Hoai Ca and Tony, the longing in his heart grew stronger with each passing day. Thanks to his relentless efforts, he achieved many accomplishments, received praise from his superiors, and was finally granted a short leave. Not wanting to waste this precious chance, Hùng quickly packed his bags and headed back to his hometown. On the way, his heart was pounding with excitement and anticipation because he had prepared a special surprise for Hoai Ca and little Tony. He wanted his unexpected return to sweep away the heavy longing that all three of them had endured for so long. So, what is this surprise gift? And how will Hoai Ca and Tony react when they suddenly see Hùng back home? Will this joyful reunion make their love grow even stronger? Stay tuned until the end of today's episode to find out. This morning, as usual, Hoai Ca woke up before the sun had fully risen. Outside the window, a thin veil of mist covered the hills, and dewdrops sparkled like tiny pearls on the leaves. The crowing of roosters echoed from afar, mingling with the chirping of crickets and the rustling wind through the bamboo groves, signaling the beginning of a new day. She gently pulled the blanket up for Tony, who was still sound asleep, his innocent little face nestled against the pillow. Placing a soft kiss on her son's forehead, Hoai Ca slipped on a light jacket, picked up a bamboo basket, and quietly stepped into the garden. Her slow footsteps pressed against the damp red brick path, releasing the familiar earthy scent left behind by the night. In the small garden, the crops were ready for harvest. Rows of plump, crimson tomatoes, smooth green gourds, and golden ears of corn stood neatly in line, each reflecting the diligence and care of the woman who tended them. Bending down, Hoai Ca's hands worked swiftly, picking each vegetable, wiping away the morning dew, then carefully placing them into the basket. Every movement was simple, yet filled with love, as though in each tomato, each gourd, was her patience and hope. Since Hùng had gone to work far away, the little house felt even more empty. Meals now were only shared between mother and child, without the warm laughter of the man of the family. At night, after Tony had fallen asleep, Hoai Ca often sat alone by the flickering oil lamp, staring into the darkness outside. Sometimes, she recalled Hùng peeling a grapefruit, the gentle smile that made Tony giggle uncontrollably, or the firm, warm hand that once held hers as if to protect her for a lifetime. Those memories sometimes made her heart ache, her eyes sting with tears. Yet, she reminded herself to stay strong. She knew that far away, Hùng too was working hard every day, both to fulfill his duty and to find a way to return to her and their child sooner. With that thought, she felt she needed to be even braver, even more diligent, to keep their little home standing so Tony could always grow up surrounded by love. Deep in her heart, Hoai Ca always believed that the day of reunion was not far away. A day when Hùng would come back with his smile, his warm embrace, and the love he had been carrying all this time. Just imagining that moment made her eyes glisten with brightness, like a small flame lighting up the misty dawn. She smiled softly, her hands still busy with the harvest, but in her gaze shone an entire sky of hope, nurturing her own faith and that of her little son. That morning, after finishing the harvest from her garden, Hoai Ca carried 2 full baskets to the market. The familiar village path was shaded by bamboo trees, with dew still clinging to the leaves, making her footsteps feel lighter. At the market, her little stall was always visited by many. Fresh bundles of green vegetables, plump gourds, juicy red tomatoes, and the natural sweetness of golden corn all earned the trust of customers. Villagers often praised her produce for being both clean and delicious, so her goods quickly sold out. Her gentle smile and sincerity in every word only made people grow fonder of her. On the way home, her load now just an empty basket, Hoai Ca unexpectedly met her foster mother. The woman stopped and called her name with loving eyes. It turned out that before leaving for his distant post, Hung had visited the woman, entrusting her with a request. "If you can, please visit Hoai Ca from time to time, so she won't feel too sad or lonely when I'm away." Hearing those words from her foster mother made Hoai Ca's heart tighten. A wave of longing rose within her, mixed with gratitude. She was touched that, even amidst his busy work, Hung still thought of her, wanting her to have someone to rely on in his absence. Her foster mother gently held her hand, asked about her health and work, and shared a few joys and worries. She reminded her, "If you face any difficulties, come to me. I may be busy with my small shop and can't visit often, but I will always care for you as if you were my own daughter." Listening to her, Hoai Ca nodded continuously, her heart brimming with warmth. She knew her foster mother was busy, which made her treasure this care even more. Her eyes sparkled as she choked up and said, "I'm so grateful, Mother. Thanks to you, I don't feel so alone anymore." After a while, her foster mother said goodbye and left to tend her store. On the way back, her figure slowly disappeared in the distance, leaving Hoai Ca standing still, overwhelmed with emotions. When she returned home, the little house was quiet. Tony was at school, leaving her alone in the silent space. The feeling of loneliness rushed in again, but mingled with it was gratitude and affection, both for her foster mother and for Hung, the man who always thought of her, even from afar. Hoai Ca let out a soft sigh, gently set the bamboo basket aside, and looked around the empty house. In that moment, she longed more than ever for the day when Hung would return, bringing the warmth of his love to fill the emptiness in her heart. As for Hung, he had been tirelessly devoted to his work in recent days. Just the other day, thanks to a major achievement in solving a case and maintaining order in his new post, he earned the respect of his colleagues. Not only that, Hung also took an active role in the department's outreach programs, especially those promoting family planning, preventing child marriage, and raising awareness of the consequences of marrying too young. Together with his teammates, he traveled long distances on foot, visiting remote villages and knocking on every door to patiently explain to the locals. Through sincerity, warmth, and persistence, the people gradually understood, changed their way of thinking, and became more aware of their responsibilities to family and society. These results left a positive impression, greatly pleasing his superiors. That's why, during this morning's briefing, Hung was publicly praised before the whole team. And upon hearing that he hadn't been home in a long time and had devoted himself entirely to his duties, the leadership signed a decision granting him a short leave. At that moment, Hung's heart leapt with joy. He couldn't hide his radiant smile, his eyes sparkling with happiness. Instantly, the image of gentle Hoai Ca and adorable Tony appeared in his mind. Just the thought of holding them both in his arms again made all the fatigue vanish. As soon as the workday ended, he quickly went to see his superior, bowing deeply in gratitude. Then he hurried back to the dormitory to pack a few simple belongings, just a small backpack, a few sets of clothes, some treats for Tony, and a blue silk scarf he intended as a gift for Hoai Ca. That afternoon, the sky seemed clearer than usual, and the breeze blew softly, as if sharing in his joy. Hung's footsteps quickened on the road home, each step filled with excitement. He knew that in just a few more hours, after so many days apart, he would once again see Hoai Ca's smile, hear Tony's innocent voice, and be embraced by the love he had longed for all this time. On the way back, as the bus swayed along the winding mountain roads, Hung pulled out a small calendar from his pocket. He always carried it with him, its pages slightly wrinkled from being flipped through every day. When his eyes stopped at the nearest date, a wave of emotion surged within him. It was Tony's second birthday. A flicker of worry entered his heart. If he had to return to the unit on that exact day, he might not be able to spend it with Hoai Ca and his son. He remembered Tony's first birthday, when an urgent mission had kept him away. That night, Hoai Ca had called him in tears, while he had to suppress his own sobs on the training ground, haunted by guilt. This time, he made a vow to himself: "I've missed too many important moments already. I cannot let them down again." From that thought, a bright idea lit up in his mind. He would celebrate Tony's birthday early, not just a small party, but also an apology, a heartfelt gift for both mother and child. The very thought filled his heart with excitement, like the pounding of festival drums, as if he were a boy eagerly waiting for a holiday. When the bus reached the town near his village, Hung got off. He stopped by a pastry shop, carefully choosing among dozens of cakes. His eyes lit up when he spotted a small, lovely cake decorated with a playful teddy bear. He smiled, almost certain that Tony would shout with delight at the sight. Not stopping there, he headed to the food section, picking out dishes Hoai Ca loved, but rarely bought for herself. Golden, fragrant spring rolls, a basket of fresh, colorful fruits, and a box of sweet chilled dessert that he knew she loved to enjoy on quiet afternoons. He pictured Hoai Ca sitting at the table, her eyes gently curving as she savored a spoonful of the cool treat. That tender smile would be the greatest reward for all his efforts. Then he walked to the toy section. Shelves were stacked with bright, colorful boxes. His eyes settled on a set of building blocks, squares, triangles, rectangles, all in vibrant colors. He could almost hear Tony's pure laughter as the boy tried to piece them together. The thought made Hung smile unconsciously, his eyes glowing with quiet happiness. At the counter, his heart beat faster than usual. This was the heart of a soldier, hardened on training grounds, who had faced countless dangers, yet now it fluttered like that of a young man giving gifts to his loved ones for the first time. He imagined Hoai Ca's face when she saw the cake, her eyes shimmering with tears, her hands trembling with joy. He pictured Tony's wide-eyed wonder, then bursting into cheers as he blew out the candles and unwrapped his present. Now, on Hung's shoulder was only a small backpack. But inside, along with a few neatly folded clothes and personal items, was also his deep love, the weight of longing, and his simplest wish: to bring laughter, happiness, and warmth to Hoai Ca and Tony, the two most important people in his life. Stepping out of the store, Hung looked up at the sky. The sunset painted the clouds a fiery red, and a gentle breeze carried the familiar scent of the countryside. He took a deep breath and whispered to himself, "Just a little longer, and I'll be home." When Hung arrived at the entrance of the alley, his heart pounded and his steps quickened, eager to finally see Hoai Ca and Tony again. But as he pushed open the familiar wooden gate and stepped into the yard, he realized the little house was quiet, the door slightly ajar, with no sound of laughter inside. He chuckled softly to himself. Hoai Ca must have gone to the garden to harvest and taken the vegetables to the market, while Tony is already at school. The silence didn't make him sad. Instead, it gave him the perfect chance to prepare a surprise. Without hesitation, Hung set his backpack on the table, rolled up his sleeves, and stepped into the kitchen. It had been so long since he last cooked for Hoai Ca, yet every corner of the small kitchen still felt so familiar. He lit the fire, The crackle of dry wood and the smell of smoke drifting with the evening breeze brought back memories of their simple but warm family meals. He began preparing Hoai Ca's favorite dishes: golden crispy spring rolls, a bowl of sweet vegetable soup, and a plate of fresh fruits neatly arranged on the table. Sweat dotted his forehead, but his lips carried a smile, his eyes glowing with happiness. On the wooden table, he carefully placed the cake he had bought from town and tested a few candles to make sure they would shine brightly when the time came. Once everything was ready, Hung grabbed the keys and hurried down the village path to the school. The familiar road lined with trees seemed lighter under his steps, filled with anticipation. At the school gate, children rushed out after the dismissal bell. Among the cheerful crowd, Tony appeared with his little backpack and sparkling eyes. At first, the boy froze, surprised to see that familiar figure waiting at the gate. But just a moment later, Tony cried out, his tiny legs sprinting forward as his voice echoed across the yard. "Daddy Hung!" Hung opened his arms wide, sweeping the boy into his embrace. In that instant, all the longing and days of separation seemed to dissolve. He breathed deeply, inhaling the familiar scent of his child's hair, and whispered, "My good Tony, Daddy is home now, and I've got a surprise for you and Mommy." Tony's eyes lit up with curiosity as he clung tightly to his father's neck. On their way home, Hung held his son's hand, smiling as his heart raced with anticipation for the moment Hoai Ca would walk into the little house, where everything was already prepared. Now, only one person was missing, Hoai Ca. And Hung knew that when she returned, happiness would blossom brightly inside their small home. That afternoon, after selling out her basket of vegetables at the market, Hoai Ca returned home. Her steps still carried a trace of fatigue, yet her heart felt light knowing that her produce was well received by the villagers. But as she stepped through the gate, she suddenly froze at the sight before her. The little house she knew so well had been transformed, brightly decorated and glowing with warmth. On the table sat a lovely cake, surrounded by colorful ribbons and balloons gently floating in the air. From the kitchen came the fragrance of food, the crisp aroma of fried spring rolls mingling with the sweetness of chilled dessert, stirring her heart with emotion. Just then, Tony ran out from inside, his voice bubbling with excitement. "Mom, look! Daddy Hung is home. And he even prepared my birthday." Before Hoai Ca could gather her thoughts, Hung appeared at the doorway, his warm smile dissolving all the longing in an instant. Unable to hold back, she let the bamboo basket slip from her hands and rushed to embrace him. Hung's arms wrapped tightly around her, strong yet gentle, as if making up for all the days of separation. In that moment, every trace of weariness and loneliness in Hoai Ca's heart melted away. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but they were tears of joy. Deep inside, she whispered, "Finally, finally, you're home." They only had a few short days together, but for Hoai Ca, that was more than enough to fill her heart. The small celebration began. The three of them gathered around the simple wooden table. Hung brought out each dish he had lovingly prepared. Hoai Ca looked at him with eyes full of pride and gratitude, while Tony giggled beside them, his little hands reaching for the teddy bear cake. When the candles were lit, the room glowed with warm golden light. Together, Hoai Ca and Hung sang "Happy Birthday," their voices unpolished, yet overflowing with love. Tony closed his eyes, made a wish, and blew out the candles. Applause and the boys' pure laughter filled the air, making the atmosphere even more joyful. They shared the food, each slice of cake savored like a piece of happiness. Their eyes met often, filled with love, as if silently engraving this precious moment deep into their hearts. That night, under the soft golden glow of the lamp, the little house became warmer than ever. It was the most peaceful and blissful evening Hoai Ca had known in a long time. For her, happiness didn't need to be grand, just the three of them together, laughing and sharing a simple meal, was enough to fill the emptiness of all the lonely, longing days. Yet, happy times never last forever. After just a few short days of reunion with Hoai Ca and Tony, Hung must return once more to his distant post. The moment of parting will surely leave a deep emptiness in the hearts of all three. Hoai Ca understands that duty and the ideals of his career will always bind him. All she can do is quietly stand behind him, offering silent encouragement and waiting patiently. As for Hung, though strong and steadfast in the field, when he thinks of the woman he loves and their little boy left lonely at home, he cannot escape the endless weight of worry. Will their long-distance love be strong enough to hold them together, to overcome the miles and the trials of life? Or will their love be torn apart by the countless challenges that lie ahead? The answer remains unknown, and only time will prove the strength of this bond. Stay tuned for the next episode to see how Hung, Hoai Ca, and Tony face these trials, and whether their love can truly endure through every storm.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện về mẹ đơn thân Ly Hoai Ca và cảnh sát Hùng. Và mình hy vọng rằng video hôm nay có thể góp phần nào đó giúp cho mọi người có niềm tin hơn vào tình yêu, vào cuộc sống, và mọi người có thể yêu thương bản thân cũng như yêu thương người bên cạnh của mình nhiều hơn. Mọi người ơi, thì trong tập hôm nay thì Hùng hiện tại là anh đã được nghỉ phép và anh về thăm Hoài Ca. Sau một khoảng thời gian hai người xa nhau cũng khá là lâu thì hôm nay thì hai người đã được đoàn tụ với nhau. Tuy nhiên là hiện tại Hùng với Hoài Ca thì vẫn bắt buộc phải yêu xa vì công việc của Hùng. Và hiện tại thì Hùng chưa thể chuyển công tác về gần Hoài Ca được, và cái sự gắn bó với nhau thì phải cần thời gian. Và liệu hai người sẽ làm gì tiếp theo để có thể bên nhau hạnh phúc cũng như để dành những thứ tốt đẹp nhất qua cho nhau thì mời mọi người đón xem vào tập sau nha.